program is The Active Center. It's created by David Sappe.
Pronounced Seppi.
Pronounced Seppi.
You hear about the U.S. economy all the time. It's this massive, almost $27 trillion beast. And honestly, it can feel kind of impossible to wrap your head around, right? Well, we're going to fix that. Today, we're going to break it down piece by piece and really see what makes this whole thing tick. So let's just jump right in.
I mean, seriously, have you ever stopped to wonder what the U.S. economy is actually made of? We hear it all the time, right? The economy's doing great. The economy's in a slump. But what is the economy? Is it just Wall Street? Is it a bunch of factories? Is it, I don't know, the price of your morning coffee? The answer is kind of yes to all of that, and it all comes down to how we slice up this giant economic pie.
Okay, so before we can understand the economy, we need a way to measure it. We need a yardstick. And for economists, that yardstick is called gross domestic product, or GDP. The easiest way to think about it is like this. It's the final price tag on everything a country produces in a given time. We're talking every single finished good and service, from the new car rolling off the assembly line to the haircut you just got. It's the big foundational number that gives us that 30,000-foot view.
All right, so we've got this giant GDP number, but how do we actually make sense of it? Well, what economists do is they break it down into three huge categories, or what you can think of as sectors. These are basically the three main engines that drive the whole U.S. economy forward.
And wow, this chart right here, it tells you pretty much everything you need to know about the modern American economy. I mean, just look at it. The service sector, it's the absolute heavyweight champion, making up well over 70% of everything. Then you've got the industrial sector, that's where we're making physical stuff, coming in at around 19%. And then, look at the agricultural sector. It's tiny, less than 1%. This kind of lopsided breakdown is a classic sign of a super-developed post-industrial economy.
So let's start with the elephant in the room, right? That massive service sector. This is where almost all the action happens in the U.S. today. And remember, we're not talking about making physical things here. We're talking about providing intangible services. This is, without a doubt, the beating heart of the modern American workforce and its economy.
And when we say services, that's a huge, huge umbrella. It covers stuff you interact with literally every single day. Think about it. The bank that handles your money, the doctor's office you go to, the marketing team that designs the ads you see, even the Amazon warehouse that gets your package to your door, and, yeah, the tech company that built the apps on your phone. It is just unbelievably diverse.
Okay, now just to give you a sense of the sheer scale we're dealing with, look at this number, 23.4 million. Any guesses what that is? That is the number of people working in just one slice of the service economy, healthcare and social assistance. That's it. One sub-industry. It is just a massive, massive employer. And what's pretty wild when you look at this table is how the top three are all neck and neck. You've got healthcare, you've got retail and wholesale trade, and you've got professional and business services, and they each employ more than 22 million people. Think about that. Just those three subsectors alone are responsible for almost 70 million jobs. The service economy isn't just big, it's absolutely colossal.
All right, so we've seen the giant, right? The service sector. Let's pivot now to our second economic engine, the industrial sector. We're moving from the intangible to the tangible. This is the part of the economy you can literally reach out and touch. You can think of it as America's workshop. This is where we're manufacturing goods, constructing buildings, and pulling resources out of the ground.
And here's the thing. While its total share of the pie has definitely shrunk over the past few decades, it's still a big deal. We're talking about almost a fifth of the entire U.S. economy is still dedicated to just making stuff. It is absolutely a fundamental pillar, producing everything from cars and iPhones to the very electricity lighting up our homes.
So, inside this industrial sector, you've basically got three main players. First, you've got manufacturing. That's turning raw materials into finished goods. Then there's construction, building our homes, offices, roads. And finally, you have utilities and mining, the folks who provide the raw power and resources. And they're all connected. I mean, think about a new car. The manufacturing is the factory floor for sure, but construction built that factory. Mining got the iron out of the ground for the steel, and utilities provided the power to make it all run. It's this super interconnected web. So when you look at the jobs, manufacturing is the clear leader here, with almost 13 million people. Construction is next with over 8 million, but look at that last number. Utilities and mining? Just over 500,000 people work there directly. And that seems really small, but you got to remember, their impact on everyone else in the industrial sector is just enormous.
Okay, let's move on to our final and honestly most surprising economic engine, agriculture. Now, if you remember that first chart we looked at, you'd be forgiven for just writing this one off as totally insignificant. But, well, that would be a really big mistake.
Yeah, this is the number that just throws everybody for a loop. Less than 1%. That's what direct farming, growing the crops, raising the animals, contributes to GDP. I mean, on the surface, it looks like a rounding error. It barely even registers.
So, is that the whole story? No way. Not even close. That tiny 1% number is super misleading because it's only counting what happens on the farm itself. The real story, the real economic muscle of agriculture, is what happens after the food leaves the farm gate.
See, what you really need to look at is the entire supply chain, what people call the farm-to-fork economy. So it starts on the farm, right? But then that raw food goes to food manufacturers to get processed and packaged. Then it gets shipped to grocery stores and other food shops, and then a massive chunk of it ends up in restaurants where it's cooked and served to us. Every single one of those steps is a huge industry all on its own.
Okay, now check this out. This is where it gets really fascinating. The restaurant industry, by itself, employs almost 13 million people. That is nearly 5 times more people than actually work on the farms. So when you start adding up all the jobs along that entire chain, from the person driving the tractor to the person serving your table, the whole picture just completely changes. And here it is. This is the big reveal. When you add up that entire food and agriculture ecosystem, it supports nearly 47.2 million jobs. Let that sink in. So that tiny, less than 1% sector we started with, it's actually the foundation for one of the biggest job engines in the entire country. Pretty amazing, right?
Okay, so we've broken down all these different pieces, but what does it all mean for you? What's the big takeaway here? Why should you even care about any of this in your everyday life?
Well, the bottom line is this. The U.S. is a service-based economy, period. And that simple fact shapes almost everything around us. The kinds of jobs that are available, the skills that are valuable, the companies that get investment, it's all driven by this one reality. This is the world we all live and work in.
And hopefully, after this, you've got a new kind of mental map for the world. So the next time you're scrolling on your phone, or you see a new building going up, or you're just ordering food, you can kind of see where it all fits. You can see the hidden threads connecting the tech worker, the construction crew, and the person who grew your food.
And that really leaves us with one big final question to chew on. We've seen this clear evolution, right? From agriculture to industrial and now to a service economy. So what's next? Is something like AI going to create a whole new fourth sector we haven't even thought of yet? Or is it just going to completely transform the 3 we already have? Honestly, the answer to that question is probably going to define the economy for all of us in the years to come.